Alrighty, I haven't done a compatibility ranking tier video in a few days, so let's go ahead and right now, as I'm doing this, the moon is in Cancer, where it is at home, or she is at home. So I figured it would be a good time to rank the compatible signs for Cancer, and then after this, we only have Aries, Gemini, Sagittarius, and Aquarius, and we will be all done with this series, which is really unfortunate because I love doing these compatibility tier videos. Okay, so Cancer, quick, a couple of side notes before we get into the, ranking each sign. Cancer is widely regarded as the most emotional sign. So that is, of course, very relevant when it comes to, especially romantic compatibility, which is mostly what we are evaluating here. So I think Cancer being so emotionally, deep and sensitive, they need someone that's going to be there for them. They really need that strong connection because, like feeling so deeply for someone else that's going to be unreliable or, not trustworthy, not loyal, that just doesn't work. If you feel that deeply, so much of your own well-being is put in that person's hands. So I think, that's why I like to generally pair Cancer with other earth, either earth signs, which are very reliable, or other water signs, which have a lot in common, and therefore, that's where you can find that loyalty. But we will go through sign by sign because there are some, exceptions. There are some interesting compatibility matches throughout the whole zodiac, of course, just like with any other sign. Before we do so, definitely get a reading if you are interested in doing so. I've had an influx of readings lately, and they're just so much fun. I love doing them. It's great value for your money, and hit me up. Go to my website. I always put my website information and my email in the description. You can purchase a reading directly through my website. Just make sure that you email me the necessary birth information as well. All right, so first with Aquarius. This is an interesting one, and I actually have noticed some couples between Cancer and Aquarius, which is really, I think it's an odd one. We wouldn't really expect this combination to work because, again, Cancer is potentially the most emotional sign, and Aquarius is definitely one of the least emotional signs. Some people would go as far as to say that Aquarius might be the least emotional sign. Aquarius actually does have deep feelings and deep passion. It's just that Aquarius can be very awkward with expressing those feelings. Aquarius doesn't know what to do with those feelings. Aquarius can sometimes come across as very cold, detached, aloof. So that's not going to work with most people who have major placements in Cancer. How does that work on a romantic level if Cancer is, much more aware of their emotions and feels much more viscerally on a deep level, but also on a shallow level as well. Like that emotion is kind of out there. Cancer is very capable of expressing and dealing with that emotion. How does that work if they come across a personality that is dramatically different? I think this is going to be a very difficult combination. When it comes to the aspect, this is a quincunx, right? Yes. A quincunx is almost exactly opposite, but it's one sign away from being exactly opposite. So directly opposite of Cancer would be Capricorn. So the signs on either side of Capricorn are the quincunx signs to Cancer. So that would be Aquarius and Sagittarius, which we will talk about later. So I always say when you have two quincunx signs, they have as little in common as you can possibly have. Cancer is the beginning of summer. Aquarius is the middle of winter. Cancer is cardinal water. Aquarius is fixed air. Aquarius is yang, Cancer is yin. There is nothing to connect over. So this relationship can work, but it's going to be very difficult. It's going to require a lot of mutual compromise and, understanding. Communication may be very difficult. These signs just have very different needs. Cancer generally wants a very close-knit relationship. They want something a little bit more possessive. They want that loyalty and that close connection. They want to be very lovey-dovey and touchy-feely. Aquarius is completely different. Aquarius wants room to breathe and do their own thing. Aquarius is very independent. And again, Aquarius may be cuddly at times, but Aquarius is generally more, don't touch me, I'm doing my own thing. Aquarius is more, it's kind of like the robot sign, and Cancer is the opposite. It's just dramatically different signs for sure. Okay, next is Aries. So I like this a little bit better. Cancer and Aries do form a square to one another. So, yes, that is a contentious aspect. Signs that square each other are often kind of feuding, they're battling. I believe that's Mars energy when signs square each other. And Aries is ruled by Mars anyway, so there's a lot of Mars energy with this connection. So, in other words, this connection may be very passionate, very intense. Aries is kind of passionate and intense anyway, but especially with Cancer. So that could be very sexual, very passionate between the two of these. There's definitely going to be a lot of tension there, which can it can definitely be bad. We'll go into the cons in just a moment, but for the pros, yeah, that tension could be, that could be sexual tension, that could be passion, that could be it could be a very hot dynamic. Aries is probably the most masculine sign, and Cancer is the most feminine sign. So regardless of the genders of these two hypothetical, people, whatever placements are involved, even if you have, like, let's say a male Cancer with a female Aries, whatever, it really doesn't matter. Combining such a masculine sign with such a feminine sign, yes, that can be very sexual, flirtatious, romantic. But again, these signs have there's huge differences here. There's huge disparities as well. Aries being so masculine and outgoing, being a fire sign, cardinal fire, they're going to be much more outgoing, much more spontaneous and adventurous. Cancer is usually more of a homebody, and Cancer doesn't like drama. They're very sensitive to drama. Aries is a very dramatic sign. Aries can have kind of outbursts at times, and most of the time Aries doesn't mean anything by the outburst. Usually Aries will cool off, a moment later, but that could really rub Cancer the wrong way. Cancer's not going to like these outbursts, and Cancer will see it as aggressive, and I could just see fights between the two of these signs. So I'll say awkward. There is definitely this potential. There's potential for this connection to be very passionate for sure, but generally it's going to be a more short-lived connection unless either of these signs can work out their differences, or if there's a certain combination elsewhere in the charts of these people. And that's where I always say it's not good enough to just look at someone's sun and moon sign and assess their compatibility. You have to look at Venus, Mars, and the descendant, because we are attracted to the signs of our Venus, Mars, and descendant. So that's where it gets a little tricky. Like, let's say someone has sun in Cancer, but then they're Libra rising, so their descendant is Aries. Then they're going to be attracted to Aries. That would be a totally different. My answer would be totally different. My assessment would be different. It gets complicated. But just looking at these signs on their own, there's gonna be a lot of friction between Aries and Cancer. They're gonna rub each other the wrong way. Cancer may be offended or irritated by Aries' impulsiveness and drama, and Aries may feel like Cancer is a wet blanket. Aries may feel kind of burdened by Cancer. Cancer is a much heavier energy. Next is Cancer with itself, and this one I actually kind of briefly thought of this before filming today. I haven't noticed many. I don't know if I've noticed any relationships between at least Cancer Sun people in a relationship, but I was thinking about it, and part of that could be that I feel like let's say two people with major Cancer placements were in a relationship together. I feel like they would never leave the house. If one of you is a homebody and but then you both are that way, being in that kind of relationship, you're just going to reinforce those qualities even more so in yourself. So ideally, that's not really what I would look for in a match astrologically. I would like two signs that balance each other or that help each other grow in some kind of way. Maybe, two signs, two people that kind of complement each other somehow with different strengths and weaknesses. And of course, you're generally not going to have that when you have two people with major placements of the same sign. Yes, you will have a lot in common, and that can be great. You can be best friends. You can relate on such a deep level. It's going to be a very easy connection, easy to understand each other. There's not going to need to be much compromise. There's probably going to be, very low probability of any misunderstandings. But the cost of all that is, this is going to be more of a friendship. I don't see it being as romantic. That being said, though, Cancer being so deeply emotional, being with another person who also has major Cancer placements, you could have a very deep connection. You'll be very, understanding of each other's emotion, and your, relationship will of course be very emotional. So that could be interesting. But again, I think it would be more of like a sibling type of energy, or even if there's an age difference, more of like a parent-child sort of energy. I don't see this being romantic unless there are sort of other major factors going on. So I would say average between the two of these. Another maybe flaw of this connection would be that Cancer is not the most risk-taking sign. Certain people with major Cancer placements, I think especially females, can be very comfortable being emotionally vulnerable, so they can put themselves out there a little bit more and be a little bit more outgoing. So that could maybe work. I'm just saying that I'd be afraid of, both Cancer individuals being a little bit too conservative. Neither one's taking any risks. Neither one's putting themselves out there. Therefore, who is developing this emotional relationship or romantic relationship? Who is energizing the dynamic? I could see this becoming too vanilla or kind of boring. I don't know. Nothing dramatically wrong with this combination. I don't know. There's pros and there's cons. Next is Capricorn. So finally we have a combination that at least I would be I am much more enthusiastic about this combination, because, well, Cancer and Capricorn are directly opposite one another, and I think at first glance these signs can appear very incompatible because they are dramatically different. Of all the opposing pairs, I do think this is one of the more challenging ones because of their differences. I think early in life, people with major placements in these signs may not necessarily see eye to eye. They may not understand each other because Cancer is one of the most emotional signs. Capricorn can be very detached. At the same time, though, I think Capricorn does feel very deeply, and they are actually a very instinctual sign. It's just that they keep that all under wraps. They keep that emotion private to themselves. So it's not that Capricorn is completely devoid of emotion like an air sign might be at times. They do have that emotion. They just keep that to themselves. So I think, I think it would take a sort of very, on both sides, it would take an individual that is very whole within themselves and mature and, able to relate with someone who is maybe kind of different than themselves. But that being said, this combination can work very beautifully if those conditions are met. They are very complementary. These signs being directly opposite, they do actually have some things in common. Both are yin cardinal signs. So, they both are actually leaders. It's just that Capricorn leads in a much more direct way. I'm the boss. It's very top down, hierarchical. Cancer leads through emotion. So they lead more as like a mother or father type of figure. They lead through their kind of nurturing tendencies, or through their ability to project their emotion, if that makes sense. So it can be a little trickier. It can be a little more subtle. But both signs are leaders, and both Cancer and Capricorn are focused on building security. Both are kind of obsessed with building security and meeting their needs in a long-term kind of way. So I think, Cancer being the most emotional sign, they're really going to enjoy the sturdiness of Capricorn. Capricorn's one of the most reliable signs. They're very practical. What else? Reliable, consistent. Capricorn's focused on the long term, which I think also balances some of Cancer's tendencies, because Cancer can get caught up in their own immediate needs and desires. So that's where Capricorn can balance them out. And vice versa. I think Capricorn can sometimes overly focus on the future and never prioritize their immediate feeling. And so Cancer's, not only Cancer's awareness not only of their own immediate needs, but also the immediate needs of others, I think would be very complementary to Capricorn as well. I always say Capricorn builds the home. Capricorn builds the house. Cancer makes the house a home, I guess you could say. Capricorn is nurturing on a practical, financial level. They're great at managing resources. Cancer is more nurturing in a emotional kind of way. They provide that feeling. So really beautiful connection for sure, as long as they can sort of understand each other. Next is Gemini. I've actually noticed many couples between Gemini and Cancer, which is interesting. There can definitely be a lot of strife here, but I think these signs can be great friends as well, and maybe great lovers too. Gemini and Cancer, these signs are side by side, so that is a semi-sextile. It's a 30-degree aspect. So I always say these are sibling signs. They grow up in the same general time frame. Gemini is the last sign of spring. Cancer is the first sign of summer. So they are neighbor signs. But that being said, signs that are side by side are dramatically different. So I always say they're like siblings because they grow up in the same general environment, but they can still have very dramatically different personalities. One of the main differences that I see here that is relevant for a romantic connection in particular is that Gemini is one of the least emotional signs. Cancer is one of the most emotional signs. So right there, that huge difference is, that creates the potential for misunderstanding, miscommunication. These signs are going to have different needs and different ways of expressing themselves. That's another thing too. Gemini feels the need to express everything. They want to put everything into words. They want everything to be explained. Their love language is through verbiage, through talking. Cancer doesn't feel the need to articulate everything like that. Cancer, I think, would prefer to communicate maybe non-verbally, or if the feeling is there and the trust is there, then you don't need to necessarily communicate everything and put everything into words. I think that's the best way I can explain, from an outside perspective, Cancer, I think out of all the signs, Cancer has the least need to articulate everything and put everything into words. So that is another huge difference as well that could potentially breed miscommunication and even hurt feelings on either side. Speaking of hurt feelings, that's another thing I thought of, which is Gemini can be very jocular, very joking. Gemini likes to kind of make fun of everything and make fun of themselves, make fun of other people. Gemini really doesn't take anything too seriously. Cancer feels very deeply, and I think if the connection is not strong between the two of these, Cancer could be kind of offended or maybe irritated by the lack of respect, or by maybe jokes that kind of go the wrong way. That might not really feel the best for someone who has a lot of Cancer placements. So but why are these signs attracted to each other? I think both can have definitely a sense of humor, though. Cancer is consistently ranked as one of the funniest signs. I think they're usually ranked fourth funniest after Sagittarius, Gemini, Capricorn. Maybe Scorpio's in there as well. But Cancer can have a great sense of humor as well. They might enjoy that within one another. What else? Honestly, besides that, I'm not really exactly sure why these signs are attracted to each other. I will say that Gemini is ruled by Mercury, Cancer is ruled by the Moon. These are the two fastest bodies in the sky, generally speaking. So both Cancer and Gemini, Cancer has to do with emotions and Gemini has to do with thoughts. So in a weird way, both these signs are they're both very self-aware, just in dramatically different ways. One is way more focused on the mental aspect of consciousness, and one is way more focused on the emotional aspect of consciousness. So they can complement each other. But yeah, generally, I would say this is an awkward connection. It could definitely work. One of the reasons, too, why signs that are attracted to each other when they're side by side is that, let's say we have a Gemini sun person with a Cancer sun person. There's a huge chance that one or both of these people are going to have Mercury, Venus, and maybe some other planets in like the Sun and Gemini person might have Mercury and Venus in Cancer, and then they're going to relate a lot to Cancer Sun people, or what have you. So because Mercury and Venus are always close to the Sun, there is that chance of having those placements in the sign next to yours. Next is Leo. So Leo is the other sign that is next to Cancer. And Leo and Cancer. So Cancer is the beginning of summer. Leo is the middle of summer. Cancer is cardinal water. Leo is fixed fire. So there's definitely a huge differences here. Side-by-side signs, they can get along really famously, but then they can also have a lot of strife and tension and differences. One connection here, though, is that both Cancer and Leo really focus on home and family in a way. Their families are very important to both of them. Both Cancer and Leo are very loyal. If you are their friend, you're like family, and they are very, I don't know, like tribal like that, I guess. Like their community, their family is very important. Both Cancer and Leo are very motherly or kind of fatherly signs. What else? I think both are very aware of their emotions. Both definitely know how they feel. Both are very confident about that. So in a way, there's actually a lot of similarities. Cancer is ruled by the moon, Leo is ruled by the sun. So of course, there's a very complementary kind of dynamic there. And also when you mix water with fire, it can be very sexual, very passionate, very steamy, right? But then on the other hand, water can put out the fire, fire can burn up the water. So it kind of just depends. Here, Leo does want this committed, kind of tight-knit relationship, but at the same time, Leo also wants a lot of room to breathe and to be a little bit of an attention whore at times. And that can definitely rub Cancer the wrong way, depending on what other placements are involved. So I think generally Cancer is looking for something a little bit more close-knit than Leo is. They are both loyal, they're both committed, but there are those differences, though. Leo wants to be very firm and very free and have a lot of room to breathe, whereas Cancer wants to be more close. What else? Leo, I think, being such a boisterous fire sign, they can be a little bit offensive at times. Definitely very dramatic, and that's definitely maybe a deal breaker for many Cancers, I think. So like I said earlier, Cancer doesn't want drama. They want let's just be chill, let's have peace. Leo is going to be a little bit more dramatic. So I would say this is an awkward connection as well. I would say it's roughly on par with Gemini or Aries. These are all very yang signs, and they're also all very youthful signs, Aries, Gemini, and Leo. They're very, they just want to be fun. Let's just have fun, be playful, let's be rowdy. Mercury's just stationed direct yesterday, so that's why I think that's part of why I keep tripping on my words today. It's been an awkward week. But yeah, Aries, Gemini, Leo, they can work with Cancer, and they do, but there's going to be some issues that need to be worked out as well between those signs. But Leo and Cancer in particular, I do actually really like that connection. It's just that there's a lot that needs to be worked out as well. I almost want to put Leo in the average category, but I think I'll leave Leo there, at least for now. Next is Libra and Cancer. Now, I know there were a couple signs I said I've noticed a lot of relationships with, but especially Libra and Cancer. Why? There's a lot going for this connection. There's a lot going against it as well, though. And usually what I've noticed is that there tends to be some tension or bickering between Libra-Cancer relationships. I think part of why these signs sort of hook up together is because when they first meet each other, they seem like they have more in common than they actually do. These signs form a square aspect, 90-degree aspect. So, yes, they have the same modality. Both are cardinal signs, but they're different elements. So there are huge differences there as well. When they first meet each other, I think Cancer, because of their shell, they're the crab, so they have that shell. They're soft on the inside, hard on the outside. Because of that shell, Cancer can come across less emotional than they actually are. Libra is the opposite. Libra is very detached. I think many people who are even people that are into astrology don't realize how detached and even cold kind of Libra is on the inside. But Libra doesn't come across that way. Libra comes across warm, gushy. I really think Libra almost comes across like a water sign. They come across like Pisces or Cancer when you first meet them, because they seem more emotional than they actually are, in my opinion. So when these signs meet together, I think they feel like they're on the same level. Another thing too is that both of these are cardinal signs, and Libra is ruled by Venus, Cancer is ruled by the moon. These are the two most feminine planets in our solar system in astrology. So that means that both Cancer and Libra are going to be, they are leaders, so they are asserting their own agenda, their own thoughts and feelings, but they're doing so in a very diplomatic way. Both Cancer and Libra are very socially intelligent, unless, well, they can both these signs can be reclusive though, so that, depending on the situation, they may not have that social expertise. But both definitely have the potential for being very socially aware and very diplomatic, very graceful, because both Cancer and Libra, neither one of these signs wants drama at all. And so both are going to be very careful not to hurt anyone else's feelings. That's something I forgot to mention with Capricorn. Capricorn is so aware of boundaries. They are naturally, protective of Cancer's feelings, and they aren't going to, be tactless and hurt Cancer's feelings, if that makes sense. Unlike Aries, Gemini, Leo, etc. But Libra is also going to be very aware of those boundaries. Libra, is always aware of the thoughts and feelings of others, generally speaking, and attentive to those boundaries, making sure they don't hurt anyone, making sure that there is social kind of harmony. And that's what Cancer wants as well. Cancer wants that social harmony. Cancer wants everyone to get along. So I think that's why, there are a lot of similarities and even kind of complementary dynamics here where this can be a really attractive combination. But once these signs get to know each other better, though, Cancer is the most emotional sign. My personal perspective, I would say Libra is the least emotional sign. So how is that going to work in a romantic relationship? One person is the most emotional sign that you can have, and the other is the least emotional. Romantic relationships tend to be a little bit emotional. So how does that work? There's going to need to be a lot of mutual compromise, understanding, respect, and there's going to be friction there. That friction, neither one of these signs likes friction. Neither one of these signs is certain signs and certain connections are open and accepting to that friction, and they may actually even enjoy that friction a little bit. But neither of these signs is going to enjoy that at all. So that's where, gosh, this is hard. I would still say I would put this as average. I just feel like there's gonna be this tension there though, because that's another thing too. Neither Cancer nor Libra, they're both so non-confrontational that they're gonna avoid confrontation maybe too much. So there could be issues kind of just festering, and things that haven't been dealt with that neither one of these signs will deal with. So I almost like Leo more than Libra for Cancer. Maybe I'll put Leo up here. I don't know. Something like that. I'm not really exactly sure. But, yeah, so I mean, there is a lot going for this combination, but, both being more feminine signs, I know Libra is technically a yang sign, but they are more feminine. Both being so receptive and so, wanting everything to be peaceful and harmonious. I mean, that can be a really great component, and they can both really enjoy each other's company, or that can backfire as well. So I don't know. Libra is an interesting one. Pisces is much more straightforward. Pisces is a fellow water sign. This is a trine aspect, 120 degrees. Trines have the energy of Jupiter. And Pisces is also ruled by Jupiter. So there's a lot of Jupiter energy here. There's a lot of abundance. Two water signs, they can trust each other because they have so much in common. Pisces also has deep feelings, deep, intuition and creativity. So both Cancer and Pisces can enjoy those things in one another. The only main downside that I see here is that Pisces lacks structure. I think ideally Cancer wants something a little bit more safe and secure. They can build that with Pisces because of those similarities. It's going to be an easier dynamic, generally speaking. It's not going to be very risky. So I think those similarities can build that trust and that partnership. But on the other hand, especially depending on the individual and the other placements involved, Pisces can be a very wild sign. They can be unpredictable. And I don't think Cancer wants something wild and unpredictable. They want safety. So they may or may not find that with Pisces. The more I'm talking, the more I almost want to put Pisces on a good level instead of best. That being said, I think that both are so intuitive, though. Both are very nurturing. Both are going to want to be very lovey-dovey, touchy-feely, very sappy. Both are very warm signs as well. Both wear their heart on their sleeves. And so, I think if anything, Cancer might be a little bit more guarded, but Pisces wears their heart on their sleeves. Pisces isn't afraid to be emotionally vulnerable, and that's going to warm up. Even the coldest Cancer will warm right up to Pisces, generally speaking. So I don't know. I feel like I could talk myself into ranking them higher or lower, but yeah, this is going to be one of the most compatible signs for Cancer for sure. Next is Sagittarius. Sagittarius has less in common with Cancer than pretty much any other sign. I think Aquarius would be the only sign that has less in common with Cancer than Sagittarius does, because Sagittarius is very boisterous, very kind of reckless. This is quincunx energy, so it's a 150-degree aspect. It's awkward. There's nothing. There's no common ground. Where is the common ground? Cancer's cardinal water. It's the beginning of summer. Sagittarius is mutable fire. It's the end of fall. There's nothing in common. What else? Cancer's. No, that doesn't even make sense either. I was thinking something about how Cancer starts the second trimester, I guess you could say, of the. I don't know if that's even right. Not trimester. What would be trimester but four? Quad? I don't even know what that word would be. Let's put it this way. Cancer starts the second quadrants or second quarter of the zodiac. There we go. And then Sagittarius ends the third quarter. So even that doesn't match up in any way either. So yeah, this is awkward. Cancer is the sign of home and family. Sagittarius is the sign of long distance travel. So how is that going to work? Cancer, more than any other sign, wants to just be at home. Let's just do what's familiar. Sagittarius is the exact opposite. Sagittarius wants to try something new. Let's be rebellious. Let's be risk-taking. Let's do something we've never done before. Let's push the boundaries. Cancer doesn't want that. Cancer wants security. They want boundaries. Sagittarius doesn't want boundaries at all. So even Aquarius, at least Aquarius and Cancer both focus a lot on community in different ways. Sagittarius doesn't really have that. They want to, go on their own path. I guess Aquarius does too, to some extent. So yeah, there's pretty much nothing in common. The only thing astrologically that Cancer and Sagittarius have in common, well, for one, both are very passionate signs. I think both have a certain kind of practicality sometimes, but both are deeply emotional and passionate as well. There's also a Jupiter connection with both of these signs. Since Jupiter rules Sagittarius and is exalted in Cancer, there is that kind of element of, expansion and, life is a journey. These signs, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Cancer, they all understand life is a journey. It's about the journey, not the destination, right? That's because of that Jupiter influence in all of these signs. So I guess if you did have a particularly adventurous Cancer with a particularly kind of homebody Sagittarius, then yeah, this could work. Maybe they could, utilize each other's differences. Both are very warm signs. I think Cancer would enjoy Sagittarius's warmth. But what else? Sagittarius might enjoy Cancer's nurturing qualities, but they're just so dramatically different. They're fundamentally different. They have different themes, different interests, different desires, different communication styles. Sagittarius is one of the most offensive and kind of belligerent signs, and Cancer is one of the most sensitive signs. So it just there's a huge disconnect here. There's got to be something else going on attracting these signs, because I don't see it. Next is Scorpio. So Scorpio and Cancer work famously well as well. I don't know why I don't have any good matches for Cancer. Maybe Virgo or Taurus will fall in there. I'm not really sure. Usually signs kind of just end up there. Anyway, but Scorpio and Cancer, they're two water signs, 120-degree aspect, Jupiter energy. They're both going to be very deep feeling, deeply emotional. Cancer and Scorpio have a lot in common because both are symbolized by invertebrates that have exoskeletons. We've got the scorpion and the crab, so they're both soft on the inside, hard on the outside. So ideally, both will be very receptive to each other because they'll both see that they are operating in a very similar fashion. Both can have that hard exterior, like, I'm a badass, don't mess with me, I'll cut you, whatever. or maybe, I don't know, if they're not so ghetto, maybe they'll have a different way of expressing that, But whatever it is, they can have that hard shell, so to speak. But I think both will easily permeate, into each other's shells, so to speak. And that does sound vaguely sexual, but I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. You know, it could be a very deep, passionate connection. What else? There could even be, you know, chemistry here, because Scorpio can be a little bit more dominant at times. Cancer can be a little bit more receptive or submissive, maybe, or vice versa. Either way, but both are so deeply emotional. I think they can trust each other. They can sense each other. They're both so intuitively kind of psychic and aware. They can have a very deep connection. Scorpio is not always easily understood by everyone, but Cancer is so aware of emotion. I think they may be able to understand Scorpio on a deep level, and vice versa as well. Scorpio can understand Cancer too. So I think they could be a great team, best friends, and also maybe lovers as well. Next is Taurus. Taurus and Cancer. This is one of the best matches for sure. So let me reevaluate for a second. I think I'm going to bump Capricorn down, because that one does require a lot of maturity and wholeness for both parties. And I don't know if the same is true necessarily for all of these. Yeah, I think I like this better. Yeah, and I think, spoiler alert, I'm probably going to put Virgo in the good category. Anyway, Cancer and Taurus, they are sextile. This is Venus energy. Sextiles are so beautiful and harmonious. And Taurus and Cancer in particular, though, both have a moon connection, because moon rules Cancer and is exalted in Taurus. So this is so, so beautiful. Not only do they have a lot of common ground and they can understand each other very naturally, very readily, they also have huge differences that actually work together. So it's one of those situations where the similarities draw these signs closer together, but even their differences actually draw them closer together as well. Cancer is going to love how sturdy and reliable and loyal Taurus is, generally speaking. Of course, use your own discernment, but generally speaking, though, Taurus is about as reliable as it gets. So I think Cancer is going to really enjoy that. They're going to feel secure and feel safe with Taurus. Taurus is a very committed sign, generally speaking. Loyal. What else? And yeah, just practical, down-to-earth, grounded. Taurus is much more grounded than Cancer can be. So Cancer will very much enjoy that. And Taurus will enjoy how nurturing Cancer is and how emotionally aware Cancer is, because all the earth signs are kind of secretly emotional, in my opinion. So they really soak up that water energy. So Taurus being so earthy, they'll enjoy the water element with Cancer. What else? Moon being exalted in Taurus and ruling Cancer. That just shows that both of these signs are very intuitive. They're both, Taurus is practical, but that practicality comes from a place of intuition. And I would argue that Cancer is actually very practical as well. And that practicality also comes from intuition, or kind of, street smarts, I guess you could say, common sense, intuition, whatever you want to call it. Both of these signs kind of operate from their gut, so to speak. So yeah, there's just so much in common. Even the differences are really beautiful. Yeah, also Taurus and Cancer, neither one of these signs likes drama at all. They both value stability, tranquility, peace. Let's just chill out. Let's have everything be stable. If anything, I think these two signs might be a little bit complacent next to each other, because they're just focusing so much on peace, and both might be homebodies. I think both can really enjoy food a lot, or other kind of sensual pleasures. So yeah, I mean, there's just so much in common. I think that's a really beautiful, really, really natural tendency. I think outside of water signs, I would definitely rank Taurus as the best sign for Cancer. And lastly would be Virgo. I really like Virgo and Cancer. I think it's an underrated connection. I think more people should think about Virgo with Cancer. I think it's a very beautiful connection. They also form a sextile, 60-degree aspect, Venus energy, so also very beautiful. I think Cancer and Virgo can actually understand each other very deeply. Both are deeply emotional signs, and I think both Virgo and Cancer are, how do I put this? I feel like both of them are kind of sad. I feel like both have this energy like they've been hurt in the past or something. And both want to be positive, but both can be a little kind of bleak at the same time, because Cancer is the beginning of summer and Virgo is the end of summer. So, and you might say, well, why would the beginning of summer be sad? But it's because Cancer is the first sign where the days are getting shorter, the darkness is increasing. So Cancer is the first sign that knows that the end is coming. Cancer knows that fall is coming, winter is coming, etc. And then Virgo is the end of summer. You know, they have the job of kind of killing the party, so to speak, and wrapping up the party. So that's why I think Cancer and Virgo both have this kind of like melancholy aura about them. I think that's a good word for it. So I think they can have a deep connection because of that. Depending on the Cancer, they may enjoy Virgo's analytical side, but they may not as well. I think that's a huge difference here. Virgo is deeply sensitive, but they're more of a thinker, right? They're very analytical. I just did a poll. Virgo was by far ranked the most analytical. Cancer is the most emotional, so that's a huge difference. I think that keeps this combination from being in the best tier. I think putting a thinker next to a feeler, yes, that can be interesting for both parties and mutually beneficial if they, work out their differences, but at the same time, that can be a huge difference to work out. That can be difficult. Virgo can come across cold sometimes, and that can be kind of hurtful for Cancer. What else? Cancer is more cuddly, lovey-dovey, touchy-feely. Virgo may or may not really fall into that. But that being said, it's another earth sign, so Cancer will enjoy how grounded, practical, and stable and structured Virgo is, and Virgo will enjoy how nurturing Cancer is. So definitely one of the better combinations, but there are some caveats there as well. One last thing about that too, Virgo tends to like an organized household. Cancer can be a little bit more on the messy side, not always, but that could be a difference as well domestically. But yeah, that's my take on compatibility for Cancer. So Pisces, Scorpio, Taurus, I would say are kind of the best, the easiest, followed by Capricorn and Virgo. And then, yeah, Cancer, Leo, Libra, those are interesting, but difficult. And then Aries, Gemini, Aquarius, Sagittarius, I think these are the least sensitive of others, of the feelings of others. So, yeah, it's kind of just makes sense that they would be a little awkward with Cancer at the very least. Okay, but I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know your thoughts. As always, if you want a reading, definitely get one or leave me a donation. But thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next video.